Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Hillary Scholten from Michigan's 3rd Congressional District, and I am so proud to stand here with my colleagues today to officially launch our Lowering Costs Caucus, a new caucus focused on a broad coalition in Congress committed to one clear mission: to make life more affordable for the American people. Everywhere I go back home in West Michigan, I hear from folks who are doing everything right, working hard, budgeting carefully, and still falling further and further behind. Everyday American people putting their groceries on credit cards because they can't afford their daily living. They're paying for more groceries, gas, daycare, housing, prescription drugs, you name it. All prices are going up. Meanwhile, their wages haven't kept up. Their healthcare coverage is at risk, and every month feels like a new financial cliff. The reality is Americans are being squeezed, and President Trump promised he'd bring prices down day one. The exact opposite is happening. Instead, he's promoted reckless tariffs that amount to the largest middle-class tax increases in modern history. The cost of food, clothing, even baby products could cost new parents an additional $875 million this year alone. Trump has driven up the price of electricity, mortgage payments, and everyday essentials. Families are being crushed under the weight of it all. While working families are paying more at the register, Republicans in Congress are delivering tax breaks for billionaires. Their so-called big, beautiful bill is anything but for the working class. This bill gives a windfall to the top 0.1% to the tune of $700 a day. That is, while also leaving 17 million kids behind by refusing to extend the full scope of the child tax credit. That is 1 in 4 children in America who will be left out of relief. Their priorities could not be more clear: protect special interests, enrich the wealthiest, and leave working families to fend for themselves. Look no further than the actual things that they have said about it. When President Trump hauled Republicans into the White House to try to get them on board over his budget priorities, and they raised concerns about these cuts, he said, just close your eyes and get there. Close your eyes to the suffering of the middle class. When Joni Ernst was asked about what individuals are going to do when Social Security starts to go away, she said, well, we're all going to die anyways. And just yesterday, Senator Mitch McConnell said, when asked about these Medicaid cuts, he said, well, they're struggling now. They're complaining now, but they'll get over it. I can tell you from the hundreds of West Michiganders I have heard who have no idea how they're going to afford their life if their Medicaid is ripped away from them. They're not just going to get over it. That's why we're doing something about it. We're banding together to start this caucus and commit to lowering costs for families across the United States. A new report from the Michigan Association of United Ways shows that almost half of Michigan families are struggling right now to pay for basic necessities like housing, childcare, and food. These are real people facing real struggles. In my district, Frederica Brown in Grand Rapids took a new job only to lose her food benefits and still can't afford groceries. She said, I have to decide if I'm going to spend money on food or pay for this bill. And Bonnie Watson, who cares for her granddaughter on Social Security, said her grocery bill has doubled, and she has no idea every week how she's going to make it last. These are the people that I'm concerned about, not the top 0.1% who already have more money than they know what to do with. That is who we are here to serve. Let me be clear. We are not going to stop until we get results. If the Republican-led Congress won't do it, we will build the coalition, tell the truth, introduce the legislative priorities, and lead the change ourselves. I know I am joined here today by so many others who are committed to this same promise, and that's why I am so proud to turn it over to my colleague from the Midwest, Greg Landsman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say thank you to my colleagues and to Hillary Scholten for leading on this. The economy has been broken for a long time, for decades, arguably. Bank accounts for most Americans are grim. Folks struggle to pay all their bills. And that should be the number one measure of the economy. We look at unemployment, we look at inflation, and those are important. But, when people are saying, I can't pay all my bills, and it's an increasingly high number of folks, something is wrong. And we're coming clean with the American people that we get it. We understand that the economy is broken. Unfortunately, under this administration with this Congress, it's getting worse. The administration and president, they've launched this global trade war, and that has caused everyone to cut back and raise prices. The exact opposite of what they said they were going to do. I've got a business in my district, Donovan Auto and Tire. They know that they're going to have to increase prices because of the tariffs. And so while Americans are seeing or will see the cost of things going up, making it even harder, if not impossible, to pay all their bills, they're trying to pass this terrible budget that transfers wealth literally away from lower to middle class families to the wealthiest people, not just in the United States, but these are the wealthiest people in the world. Billionaires and these enormous corporations and corporate investors. The bill will increase energy costs because they're getting rid of all these tax credits to build more energy resources and opportunities and jobs. It is going to increase the cost of groceries if you're able to pay for them, because they're cutting food assistance by $200-300 billion. And health insurance costs or health care is going to go up if you get to keep your health care. I mean, this thing is going to strip health care away from 16 million people. So at a time when people are already struggling, this is a punch in the face to folks who are barely making ends meet, all to pay for tax cuts for the super wealthy. And then the last thing is housing costs are one of the biggest issues. Zero by way of making housing costs any better. They're not providing tax relief to folks, and there's no plan to build the kind of housing we need. They want to get rid of the regulation and all of the things that get in the way of oil and gas and those kinds of things, but they don't want to do anything to cut the red tape so that we can build more housing, so that housing costs go down. So this is an attempt, I think a very sincere attempt, to make sure that folks know that there is a better path. There is a group of people who are dedicated to fundamentally lowering costs and helping people pay all their bills. And it's not just us, but we want to be the tip of the spear. And so again, thank you to Congresswoman Scholten and my colleagues. And with that, let me introduce my friend, new member, Representative Derek Tran.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank my colleagues, Representative Scholten, Landsman, Elfrith, and Goodlander for their steadfast leadership, trying to make life better for working families. I am proud to join my colleague as founding members of the Lowering Cost Caucus to find common sense solutions that make life more affordable for our constituents. While Republicans pay lip service to high prices, they've done nothing with the trifecta that they have in the House, Senate, and White House to actually bring down costs. They talk about no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, but those provisions sunset in 2028. You know what doesn't sunset in 2028? Your grocery bill, your gas bill, your student loan bill, your child care bill. I am a proud father of 3 young kids. My wife and I pay thousands of dollars a month in daycare bills, and we're not alone. When I talk to parents in my district, almost everyone talks about how unaffordable daycare is. And we're not asking for Harvard daycare. We just want a safe place for our kids to learn and thrive. but for too many families, the cost is just too high. Policies like expanded child tax credit have already been proven to ease the burden on working families, but the Republican tax bill will leave 43,000 children in my district alone ineligible for these critical resources. American families deserve so much better than this. We're laser focused on making life more affordable, but all congressional Republicans seems to be focused on is giving tax breaks for their billionaire donors. I want to ask my Republican colleagues, what are you doing for the family that wants to settle down but cannot afford their down payment and their first home? What are you doing for the couple that desperately needs and wants kids but can't afford daycare? What are you doing for the parents pinching pennies just so they can buy a new backpack, a new notebook for their kids when they go back to school this fall? We want to get to work to solve these problems for the American people. I hope our Republican colleagues will join us. I am honored to join my colleagues here. And with that, let me turn it over to my good friend, Rep. Elfreth.
Good afternoon. So it's been said, but I want to reiterate that we're gathered here today because from coast to coast and in the Midwest, we are hearing loud and clear from our constituents every time we go home for a district work period. The cost of living is just too high. And this is also personal for me as it is for my colleagues. I'm the daughter of a train driver. I'm a millennial with student loan debt. I'm a renter looking like so many Americans in this country to buy a house someday. And the president ran and won on the promise to lower costs. And I'm going to stand here as a Democrat and say something shocking, which he was right. We have an affordability crisis in this country. Now, as it's been mentioned, not only has the president done nothing to actually resolve that crisis, he's actually exacerbating it. He's exacerbating it with the chaotic tariff policy that we've discussed. He's exacerbating it by dismantling government services and programs, especially in my district. Yet the reality for too many Americans is that the cost of housing is out of reach. It's more expensive to send an infant to daycare than your 18-year-old to the University of Maryland. Energy bills, especially in this heat wave and during the cold we experienced this winter, are a small fortune for so many families across this country. And we are united today on the common ground and common sense policy that we have an obligation as representatives in the House to make it a little bit easier for our neighbors, not just to get by, but to actually get ahead. We're facing the cruel reality for the first time in this country. Our children may not be as well off or have the same quality of life as we do. And that is simply unacceptable. We have a fundamental promise in this country is to make sure our kids have the opportunity and a leg up, and we have to take seriously our obligation as policymakers to help do just that. And that's why I'm so proud to join my colleagues to be solutions-oriented, to be laser-focused on actually addressing the challenges ahead of why costs are rising so exponentially for so many Americans, and to do something about it. I'm proud to be here today and very proud to introduce my colleague from New Hampshire, Representative Goodlander.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm here today really because my great-grandfather, who was a family farmer, he came to this country at the age of 16, didn't speak a word of English. He came to this country because he believed in the American dream, and he lived it. Today, as we look around, it's the cost crisis that is standing in between hardworking people in this country and the American dream. Before I came to Congress, I worked at the Department of Justice in the Antitrust Division on the front lines of one big piece of the cost crisis in this country, taking on corporate monopolies that are jacking up costs across the board. I enforced the laws that Congress wrote, and in doing that, I heard from the people who I work for today who aren't able to buy a home because the American dream, this cornerstone of the American dream, having a home, is out of reach. Whether you're a renter or trying to buy a home, it's just not possible for most people in this country. I saw it when we take a look at healthcare. Healthcare costs, 70% of people in my state are having to skip out on doctor's appointments, are deciding that they cannot afford to fill a prescription because the costs are just too high. That's not right. Childcare. I hear about it everywhere I go. It is a crisis that has a set of solutions, and that's going to take the kind of focus that this caucus is bringing to the cost crisis. You know, we live in a moment where we've got a president who is waging chaotic and lawless trade wars that are jacking up across the board for hardworking people, that are putting small businesses out of business. Every single day on this job, I'm hearing from small businesses that are feeling the pain of these chaotic and lawless trade wars. Congress can do something about that. We also have a chance to take on what is the biggest giveaway to billionaires and big corporations that we've seen in our lifetimes in generations. A giveaway that is being paid for on the backs of hardworking people with the biggest cuts to healthcare in American history. Look, we live in chaotic and noisy times. I'm so proud to be a part of this caucus because we are muting out the noise and we are focusing on the core mission, the crisis that is standing in between the American people and the American dream. And that is why I'm so grateful to you, Congresswoman Scholten, for bringing us together today, Congressman Landsman, all my colleagues who are mission-driven and ready to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm happy to take a few questions.
I had a question about legislation. You mentioned that you can where are you?
Yep.
What is the number one piece of legislation this caucus?
Yeah, so we're going to be rolling those out over time, but you've heard the top priorities: affordable childcare, housing, cost of living, and attacking some of these just erratic and totally chaotic tariffs. I know in places like Michigan, we are disproportionately feeling the brunt of those. And so over the course of the next several months, we're going to be rolling those key pieces of legislation out, but it will be under those key affordability issues.
There's been some debate about the direction of the Democratic Party if it should be going towards the social direction, more economic issues. Do you think that this is the direction that the party should be going?
Absolutely. And it's the reason for this caucus. We want a platform on which we can talk about the issues that we know are most important to the American people. And my colleagues were so excited to join this caucus in large part because, we feel like, instead of allowing, the media to sort of dominate and tell us what we're about, we're going to tell everybody, the American people, what we're about. And we are about tackling this affordability crisis. In addition to legislation, throughout the rest of this term, we're going to be going on the road into districts and talking to the American people about the legislation that we want and we're pushing forward, as well as listening to them in our own districts, as well as other districts where they may not have the representation that they want or as is responsive to the issues that they're raising about affordability. So, make no mistake, this is the affordability crisis is the number one issue that so many of us hear about, and this is what we're doing to tackle it.